Am I the asshole for giving my daughter 30 days to move out? For privacy, I'll use fake names. I have two daughters, Zoe, 21, and Bea, 17. Their biological father was a narcissist who constantly demeaned both of them. It took years of court battles, but my husband, Tim, and I finally got full custody when Zoe was 16. Because of everything she went through, Zoe started therapy when she was young. Even then, she had a tendency to be demanding, angry, and cruel to the people around her. I did everything I could to help. I went to therapy myself. I took parenting classes. I read books. I tried every resource I could find. One thing that helped was encouraging Zoe to channel her emotions into positive outlets, like kickboxing. For a while, things improved, but when Zoe turned 18, she quit therapy. She said it was a waste of time. Since then, she's refused any kind of help or positive outlet. Instead, she uses her childhood as an excuse to mistreat everyone around her. Right now, Zoe lives at home completely rent-free. My husband and I pay for everything. Her college tuition, which costs more than $56,000 a year. Her car, her phone, her insurance, everything. Yet she refuses to help around the house. Even asking her to do something simple, like filling the dog's water bowl, can turn into a screaming match. She believes she's entitled to our money. She gets angry that we're also saving for Bea's future instead of giving every spare dollar to her as fun money. Then came last Sunday. My husband and I left for a doctor's appointment. The next day, Bea told me something that completely changed how I saw the situation. Apparently, while we were gone, Zoe went on a rant about me. The reason? Before leaving, I'd asked her to put a frozen meal in the oven. My husband is a cancer survivor. He finished chemotherapy earlier this year. He's still weak and gets sick often, but continues working from home to help support our family. I simply wanted dinner ready for him when we got back. According to Bea, Zoe exploded. She called me a selfish bitch. Then she said, "Tim is a grown-ass man. Why can't he make his own food instead of me doing everything because he's useless?" That was my breaking point. Not because she insulted me, because she insulted the man who stepped up and became a father when her biological father wouldn't. The man who has loved, supported, and provided for her for years. When Zoe came home, I sat her down. I told her that her car was already in her name and her final year of college had already been paid for. But beyond that, the financial support was over. I gave her 30 days to move out, and until the end of the year, to find her own insurance. I told her we would no longer be paying her expenses. We would no longer be treated like ATMs by someone who clearly has no respect for us. If she wanted to be treated like an independent adult, then she could start acting like one. Zoe will most likely move in with her grandparents, but not everyone agrees with my decision. My sister says I'm the worst person she's ever met. She believes you never turn your back on family. She also says I know Zoe's childhood trauma changed her forever. And she's right, it did. But in my opinion, trauma may explain someone's behavior. It doesn't excuse it, especially when it's directed at the people who've spent years trying to help. So now I'm wondering, am I the asshole? The mom I babysat for finally pushed me too far. I'm 16 and babysit on weekends for extra money. A few months ago, I started babysitting for a woman who lived almost an hour away on the other side of town. Her 5-year-old son was honestly a great kid, but his mom was a nightmare. She was always late. She'd say she was going shopping for an hour and disappear for 4. She'd say she was grabbing dinner and not come home until nearly midnight. Whenever I complained, she'd laugh it off and say I was being paid anyway. Last Saturday was my breaking point. She dropped her son off with me at 9 a.m. and said she'd be back around lunch. I reminded her that I had my dad's 50th birthday dinner that evening and needed to leave by 5 p.m. She said that wouldn't be a problem. By 1 p.m., she still wasn't back. I texted her. No reply. At 2 p.m., I texted again. Nothing. Around 3 p.m., she finally responded. "Still busy. Thanks for helping." That was it. No explanation. No estimated time. Just that. A little later, I checked social media and saw photos of her at a winery with friends. So she hadn't been busy. This had been planned all along. I texted her again and reminded her I needed to leave by 5 p.m. She replied, "Just bring him with you." I told her I wasn't taking a 5-year-old I'd been hired to babysit to a family birthday on the other side of town. She responded, "I pay you. Figure it out." At that point, I was furious. I reminded her she'd agreed to pick him up hours ago. She replied, "You're being dramatic." At 4 p.m., I sent another message. No response. At 4:30 p.m., I sent a final warning. I told her if she wasn't there by 5 p.m., I would have to involve someone else because I couldn't stay. That's when she completely lost it. She started sending messages saying I'd better not embarrass her, that she'd tell everyone I was unreliable, that I'd never babysit in the area again. Then she sent, "You're 16. You'll do what you're told." 5 p.m. came. No mum. No calls. Nothing. So I packed up the kids' things, called a taxi, and took him to the police station near the restaurant where my family was celebrating. I explained the situation to the officers. I showed them the messages. I showed them where I'd reminded her about my dad's birthday weeks earlier. I showed them all the warnings I'd sent throughout the day. The officers took copies of everything and told me they'd handle it from there. About 3 hours later, my phone exploded. Apparently, she'd finally shown up to get her son and discovered he was with the police. She called me screaming, told me I'd ruined her life, told me child services were now involved. I told her that wasn't my fault. She went quiet for a second and then said, "You'll regret this. I promise I'll get you back for this." Then she hung up. A few days later, I found out this wasn't the first complaint made about her. Honestly, I feel bad for the kid. But I don't regret what I did. My dad ignored me for almost a week. Was it really my fault? A few days ago was my 17th birthday. I've never really had a special birthday. Sure, we celebrate it, but it's always just a small celebration at home with my family. Meanwhile, I watch my siblings celebrate theirs at hotels and restaurants. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just overreacting when I cry about it. This year was even worse. Nobody wished me a happy birthday. Nobody celebrated. Everyone just acted like it was any other day. I know it's not the biggest deal in the world, but even a simple happy birthday would have meant something. Before this, I had an iPhone 11 that my mom bought me. It eventually broke, so I'd been using my old iPhone 6S. For my birthday, my dad gave me an old iPhone XR. The problem was, the back glass was completely shattered. It wasn't even a new phone. It was my older brother's old phone after he dropped it. My dad fixed the screen, but never bothered fixing the broken back. I'd already told him I wanted a newer phone. I even said I didn't mind if it was secondhand. But if he was going to give me that phone, I just wish he'd repaired it properly first. I didn't yell. I didn't throw it. I just quietly put the phone down. He could tell I was upset. Then he told me I should be grateful because he'd tried his best to fix it. The thing is, he's financially stable. Buying me a decent phone wouldn't have affected him much. What hurts even more is that my dad has a history of cheating. He's happy to spend money buying expensive bags and shoes for his girlfriends, but couldn't buy me a proper phone when I'm in my senior year and actually need one. Now he's acting like none of this is his fault. He's barely spoken to me for almost a week. He talks to my siblings, but completely ignores me. I honestly don't know if I'm overreacting. Was it really my fault? My mom thinks the S in son stands for slave. For some context, my partner and I fell on hard times and moved in with my parents back in October of last year. My dad's health has been declining for a while, and he's very limited in what he can do. My mom works, my partner works. I'm on disability, but I also work a couple of days a week. We live by a lake, and a couple of months ago, the water level got way too high. After days of heavy rain, our entire house flooded. It stayed underwater for about a week and a half. That's when everything changed. We have 2 cats and a dog. My parents also have pets. When the water started coming into the house, my mom called her church. They paid for a hotel for my parents for a couple of nights. The problem was, the hotel wasn't pet-friendly, so they left us behind in a house that was actively flooding, along with all of the animals. We came up with a plan for the cats. We moved them into the camper and checked on them every day. Then we somehow found a hotel that would take not 1, but 2 dogs. A few days later, my parents found another hotel that accepted pets, so they took their dog with them. Eventually, we couldn't afford hotels anymore. So my partner, my mom, and I all moved into the camper with the cats. My dad didn't come because he was in the hospital. He's now on dialysis 3 days a week. Finally, the flood water went down, and we could start tearing the house apart. My partner and I worked our asses off. Meanwhile, my mom would help for maybe an hour here and there. My dad hasn't stepped foot inside the house for almost 2 months. Then today, I hit my breaking point. While my partner and my mom were at work and my dad was at dialysis, I spent 7 straight hours ripping apart the kitchen, prying up tiles, pulling nailed down boards, removing old plastic, finally exposing the linoleum that nobody had seen in almost 20 years. Then I hauled all the trash bins down the road. Anyone who's ever demolished a house knows just how much trash that creates. After that, I burned all the destroyed wooden furniture that couldn't be saved. 7 hours later, I finally sat down. Not long after, my mom got home. She looked around, noticed a few small pieces of trash I'd missed, and immediately started chewing me out. I completely lost it. I told her I don't even live here anymore, that my dad isn't helpless. I'd spent the entire day busting my ass just to get yelled at over a couple pieces of trash. I think my mother resents me, and it's destroying my self-esteem. I don't know if resent is the right word. I've spent years telling myself I was just being sensitive, that I was overthinking things, that I was taking everything too personally. But after years of the same pattern, I'm starting to wonder if my mom really does resent me. She almost always takes my brother's side. She constantly talks about how much he's suffered and how difficult his life has been. But when she talks about me, I'm lazy. I don't work hard enough. I don't do enough. The strange part is, my experience growing up was completely different from the story she tells. While my brother was away studying, I was the one living through the chaos at home. I was the one dealing with her traumatic relationships, her alcoholic partners, the constant stress that came with it. Yet she still tells me I've had the easier life. No matter what I do, it never feels like enough. There's always something else I should be doing, something else I should improve, some way I should be better. I honestly can't remember the last time she made me feel proud of myself. Instead, I hear things like, you can't get along with anyone, or you need to work harder and get a better job. Even when it sounds like advice, it never feels supportive. It just feels like criticism. After hearing it for so many years, I've started believing it. I question myself constantly. I struggle to believe in my own abilities. Sometimes I genuinely wonder if I'm the problem. Part of me wants to move away and finally have some peace. But then, the guilt kicks in. I worry that leaving would make me a bad daughter, that I'd be abandoning her. I'm stuck between wanting my own life and feeling responsible for someone who has never really made me feel emotionally safe. My mom says she'll die alone every time I try to live my own life. I, 26M, am doing my master's degree in another country. My sister also works overseas. Ever since we both moved away, my mom has been living alone. And honestly, things have gotten unbearable. She's always been extremely selfish, but lately it's become so much worse. She constantly guilt trips both of us for leaving. She'll say things like, if I died here alone tomorrow, neither of you would even know. She's even jealous of our dog because she thinks we love the dog more than we love her. Whenever my sister and I are both away, she'll purposely neglect the dog just to prove a point. Then, whenever we come home for the summer or any holiday, if either of us goes out with friends even once, she makes us feel terrible. She tells us we're leaving her alone, that we don't care about her. This morning, we got into another argument. She has really bad health anxiety. She's constantly convinced she has cancer or some other serious illness, even though every test comes back normal and she gets full checkups every 6 months. I even offered to buy her an Apple Watch, hoping it might help ease some of her anxiety. Instead, she said, I'll die here alone and rot in this house, and nobody will even know. The problem is, she can barely keep any friends. So all of her emotional attention gets focused on me and my sister. I'm honestly at my breaking point. Every time I try to set boundaries or create some distance, I end up feeling incredibly guilty. Then I fall right back into the same cycle. Has anyone dealt with a parent like this? I lied to my mom so I could skip our plans. Now she won't speak to me. I, 26F, live in the same neighborhood as my mom, and I see her at least 3 times a week. Usually I go over for dinner with her and my dad. We're pretty close, although if I'm being honest, she can be a little volatile. She's actually in the middle of a court case with my aunt over comments that were made on Facebook. And to make things even more awkward, I'm the attorney representing my own mom. Last weekend, she'd planned for us to go to a jazz evening together. I don't even like jazz, but I told her I'd go anyway. Then, last Friday, one of my coworkers invited me out for sushi with a group of people I'd never met before. The funny thing is, I don't even like this coworker. She's honestly kind of annoying and not someone I'd normally choose to spend time with. But the idea of going to sushi with a bunch of strangers sounded better than going to jazz night with my mom. So I lied. I told my mom I had to work late. She didn't believe me. She actually drove over to my house to check. When she saw my car wasn't there, she knew I'd lied. The worst part? I was supposed to be her ride. She doesn't have a driver's license, and my dad doesn't drive at night. Because I never showed up, she missed the event completely. She'd already paid the equivalent of about $22 for the ticket, and it wasn't refundable. I told her I'd pay her back as soon as I got paid, but she's still furious. I know I probably should have just been honest instead of making up an excuse. At the same time, I just wanted one night to myself without feeling guilty. Now I'm wondering if I handled it completely wrong. Was I in the wrong? I accidentally stopped my parents from becoming foster parents. They've never forgiven me. When I was in elementary school, my parents took in the children of a family friend for about 6 months. While those kids lived with us, my parents put all of their attention into making sure they felt safe, supported, and welcome. I completely understood why. But I also felt forgotten. They'd break promises they made to me. They'd cancel plans at the last minute. And they never seemed to have any time for me anymore. About a month in, they told me it wouldn't last forever and thanked me for being mature about it. The second time I brought it up, they told me I needed to take a back seat because those kids had experienced trauma. They said I needed to stop thinking about myself and step up. Eventually, the kids went back to their parents. But after that, my parents decided they wanted to become foster parents. They'd always wanted a bigger family, and they hoped fostering might eventually lead to adoption. As part of the approval process, everyone in the family had to be interviewed separately. During my interview, I told them I didn't want us to become a foster family. I explained what had happened the first time. I said I didn't want to come last again. I was asked if I'd welcome foster children into our home. I basically said, not if it meant losing my parents all over again. Looking back now, I know it wasn't the kids' fault. It was my parents. Apparently, what I said was enough for their application to be rejected. I still don't know exactly what they were told, but they figured out it was because of me. and they've never forgiven me. Our relationship has only gotten worse over the years. Just last month, they told me I'd selfishly robbed them of the chance to help more children and to grow our family. Now I'm wondering if going no contact would be better for everyone. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for losing respect for my mom after she helped me recover from surgery? I had a full hysterectomy on Wednesday because of endometriosis. My mom volunteered to stay with me through the weekend to help take care of me and the house while my husband picked up our kids from his parents, who live 5 hours away. At first, I was really grateful, but the longer she stayed, the more I started noticing things I'd never really thought about before. I've always loved my mom. Honestly, I kind of idolized her growing up. She worked all the time when I was a kid, so I didn't get to see her very much. The first night we ordered dinner, I asked if she could run the dishwasher because I wasn't supposed to bend over. She looked at me and said, "I don't know how. Your dad always does the dishes." The next morning, I asked if she could make a pot of coffee because it hurt to stand for long. She said, "I don't know how. Your dad always makes the coffee." The next day, I asked if she could take out the trash because it was too heavy for me. She said she would, but she never did. Eventually, I had to take it out myself because it was overflowing. After that, I asked if she could at least put a new trash bag in the can. She looked at me and said, "I don't know how to do that either." This kept happening all weekend. Almost every household chore I needed help with, she either didn't know how to do or wouldn't do. Then today was my breaking point. I asked if she could refill my cat's water bowl. It's one of those heavy refillable ones. I asked her several times to grab the large water jug first. She completely ignored me and started filling a small metal bowl with water instead. I asked her what she was doing because that wasn't how the water bowl worked. She immediately got angry. She told me to stop correcting her. Then she called me an ungrateful brat. Honestly, that completely changed how I see her. I don't idolize her anymore. I've lost a lot of respect for her because she doesn't seem to know how to do some very basic adult tasks, and she refuses to learn. Now I can't stop wondering, if something ever happened to my dad, would she even be able to take care of herself? Am I the asshole? So, which story was your favorite? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's stories, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another episode. And if you have any crazy Reddit stories you'd like to see featured, let us know in the comments. Now click the video on your screen for another crazy Reddit story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.